The next position that we're going to look at for flowcharts is the editor's position. Initially, some students thought that the editor's position was simply to oversee the production aspects of their group. Um, we have worked on sort of changing that perspective, and hopefully this flowchart will a little bit explain a little bit better what the editor's actual position within the group is and what their responsibilities are, because the editor position is actually a very crucial and important part of the overall process, because the editor is really responsible kind of for reviewing and overseeing and kind of summarizing what is happening throughout the process. So the editor has three different reviews that they take care of. The first is called the game concept review, which you will see over here. The second is called the graphics review, and the third is the team organization report. So each of these can be done kind of simultaneously, unlike the other two flowcharts that we've looked at so far, the writer and the graphic designer, where there's kind of like a first quarter and third quarter and a fourth quarter. The editor's job kind of happens all at once. So game concept review, graphics review, team organization report, these kind of all happen at the same time. So we're going to look at them as separate pieces, rather than this one should be done first and this one should be done second. So first off, we're going to look at the game concept review. And this is where the editor is kind of working with the writer. So they're going to kind of review the game concept first. So the editor is the kind of the secondary person to help kind of create that game concept. So once the game concept has been completed, the editor will write a short summary of how that process went, what was maybe changed, some of the areas that they discussed when coming up with the game concept, or even some things that maybe the group decided not to go with. This will kind of help you to look at what happens with your game in the end, is kind of knowing where you start. So the editor starts with this game concept review and works with the writer to do this. The game concept review has three different other parts that kind of go along with it. So once the concept review is done, the editor is going to look at the project proposal. And once the project proposal is finished, or even throughout the process of the project proposal, the editor is going to be constantly kind of looking at that process itself, not necessarily the wording of the proposal itself, but actually looking at what happens in this process of coming up with the project proposal. And they're going to kind of make a short summary. This can be a paragraph or maybe 2 paragraphs kind of at the most about how this process went. And this will be kind of edited from the beginning of the process kind of to the end of the process. So a final draft of this summary and evaluation isn't possible until the entire project proposal is done. But along the way, there should be some notes that are taken by the editor to help them make this summary and final evaluation for the project proposal. The same thing is actually going to happen with the game text and the press release. As the game text is being created, the editor should be taking notes to build a summary of what happened in the process of creating that game text, as well as some notes that they can use for their eventual final evaluation of that. Again, same thing for the press release, summary and evaluation. And these will be notes, or they'll be in a note stage until the game text is done, the press release is done, the project proposal is done. When all three of these elements are done from the writer, then the editor can finalize this summary and finalize their evaluation. Then the editor will look at these three summaries and evaluations and kind of come up with a 2-paragraph to 3-paragraph final review of everything that the writing department did in its total process. So this final review will be used by the group just prior to creating their commercial marketing proposal, what they're going to do for their Shark Tank activity. So this final writing review will be very important in those last couple of weeks leading up to the presentation. And much like what the editor does with the game concept review, the same thing is really going to happen for the graphics department as well. They're going to look at the game graphics as they're being developed, kind of take some notes, and create a summary and final evaluation when all the graphics are done, or at least when all the graphics, the areas of graphics creation are done. So this one will be a little bit closer to like the middle, maybe end of third quarter, beginning of fourth quarter. Somewhere around there, this summary and evaluation should be able to be finished. Then you're going to look at the presentation graphics. Again, this is going to be one of those last kind of items that's put together, the summary and evaluation for coming up with that presentation. How did the process of building that presentation go? And again, just like with the writing department, the graphics department gets a final review, which will be 3 paragraphs at most that kind of sum up the entire process of how the graphics were developed, what were the challenges, what were the strengths that your department came up with, so that you can have that final review. The last part is the kind of day-to-day sort of reports that the editor takes for the team organization. So the editor is not only going to look at the graphics department and the writing department, but just the team in general. So the editor has this kind of oversight or distanced vision of what the team is doing. So they're going to come up with this team organization report, and it's going to be composed of 3 different things. One thing is relatively easy, and this is compiled as the team goes. The editor will be responsible for coming up with one file, whether it's an Excel file or it's a written document that says, here are all of the different files that our group has come up with. All of the graphics files, all of the Word files, all of the reports. Here's the names of the file, and here's where you can find them in either the flash drive that you're going to use or in the emails. You know, you're going to have this is the title of the email that I sent to you on such and such a date. This is where the file went, so that you have a copy of all the files that you guys have created and what you turned in. The next part that's going to be part of this organization report is your regular evaluation reports. As you go through the steps in your group, you will meet, you will discuss what's been done, and then you're going to evaluate each of the pieces or each of the files that you created. You're going to have to kind of evaluate them. Is this done? Does it need more work? Is it 2, 3, 4, 5? Grade yourself along the way. So you're going to look at each of those grades and sort of compile them and help your project manager to compile that list so that you're kind of responsible for making sure all those evaluation reports get completed, put together in one final file or folder, and that you have all that with your group. And then the last part is your self-evaluation. Everybody is kind of going to be doing self-evaluations along the way. So you're going to evaluate yourself at different processes, at different parts, and different times. So when you finish a file, for instance, let's say you just got done doing your game graphics summary and evaluation. Well, how do you think you did on that? So all the self-evaluations that you create as an editor and the self-evaluations from your teammates are going to be compiled together. And then from all this information, all the evaluations that you have, all your teammates' individual evaluations of themselves, you'll come up with a team assignment organization report. So you'll talk about all the assignments that you did, how you guys felt about them, and where these files are. So you'll be able to tell me everything about all the files in your whole team. Those 3 items get put together and you have a review report. This is your final report, and it should be about 1 to 2 pages long that says, here's what we did well, here's what we didn't do well, and here's how we thought about different things along the way. So hopefully this is a helpful explanation on how this flowchart was organized, and hopefully you have a better idea of how important it is to be an editor.